As an established podcaster, you have created an incredible community based on your podcast. You've created this incredible podcast for people to come and find, but you're wondering how to stand out in the noise and continue to see your podcast grow as the market of podcasts available continues to increase. This episode is going to be your guide to staying relevant and thriving in a saturated market. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Successful Podcasting Unlocked. I'm your host, Alicia Galati. I'm the founder of Galati Media, a full-service podcast management agency where we help business owners, thought leaders, and nonprofits launch and maintain lead-generating podcasts. Today's question is, how can established podcasters thrive in a crowded market? I wanted to address this question because a dear friend of mine came to me with it, and she was concerned as an established podcaster. She's been podcasting since 2020 and remembers the increase of podcasts that came out during that time. And she was curious how we can stand out as established podcasters and really make a difference as we do see this influx of new podcasters coming into the space, keeping our audience, maintaining their attention, and all of that fun stuff. So that's what we're going to dig into today. A few things to note as we go through this list. If you don't feel like you have capacity to handle all of these, then please give yourself some grace. Focus on one at a time. It is a-okay. First and foremost, content is still king. Remember that. Content is going to definitely outweigh when we're looking at people searching for information. I think podcasts are going to be a great way for people to find new information. A lot of people are no longer getting their information from the news. We're seeing that an increase of people are actually getting their news from podcasts specifically, which is very interesting. So creating engaging content, making sure that your content stands out above the rest of the crowd, that it is elevated content, that it's not just fluff, is going to really help you in this time. Niching down is going to be another thing that's going to help you with your content. If you feel like your content is a little too broad, then now would be a really good time to niche down or to get really clear on who it is that you're trying to talk to. I recently did this for 3 of our clients. They were going through rebrands or relaunches or new seasons, and we got really clear on their audience and made sure that as we were going through all of their listeners and all of their information, that we were really narrowing that down to make sure that we're talking to the right people. Make sure that you are also within the content securing really high quality guests now. And I would also recommend focusing more on solo episodes in the future. If you are someone who has a podcast and uses it to generate business for yourself, you need to have solo episodes. There are no and or buts about it. It is imperative that you do that. So make sure that as you're looking through, all right, who are those guests that you're going to have? Be really selective about those guests. And then also make sure that you're having those solo episodes for your audience to get to know you, like you, and trust you way more. Number 2, your community is your superpower. These new podcasters that are getting into the space, they do not have the connections, not just with guests, but also other podcasters that you have been creating over the last few years. Use that. Use that audience that you've already created. Use that community that you've already established and be actively engaging with them. This is really a good time, I think, to follow up with past guests that you've had on your show. Reconnect with them. How can you support them? What are they doing that's maybe different from when you recorded with them? Get to know them a little better. Find out ways that you can collaborate or reconnect. That's going to really help you stand out as people are looking for guests, as people are kind of rediscovering podcasting as a way to get their message out there without censorship. And so I think that having a community is going to be really important. And that is a superpower that you're going to have during this time. Number 3, you're going to want to make sure that you are clearly optimizing your podcast. You have content that you can re-optimize. And I don't think that people realize this. When you are a podcaster, you're creating this evergreen content, yes, but you can go back and re-optimize your podcast. So this is a quick and easy tip and strategy that you can do. Take your least performing episodes, so maybe pick 5 that are not performing as well as the others are. Listen to them. Is there something wrong with the audio? Is the guest misaligned? If the guest is misaligned or the audio isn't great, move on to the next one. But if the content was good and you're like, look, I don't understand why nobody was listening to this episode. It's so good. Re-optimize the title, re-optimize the description, re-optimize the podcast episode to ensure that it is hitting your audience where they need to. I'm not saying you have to re-record the whole episode. Not at all. Please don't do that. What I'm saying to do instead is to go into the description, go into the title, literally take your transcript and your current content, so the current title that you have, the current description that you have, and then add those into your Gemini or ChatGPT and ask it to give you a more SEO-friendly version of what you've already created. And this is going to help you. They're going to look through the transcript, see what they can do to optimize it. And also they have the knowledge of SEO that you might not have. And so use that, go through some of those episodes to ensure that you're actually making the most of the content that you already have. Also, repurpose your content. So this is something that I'm really focusing heavily on in 2025. I'm going to be taking a lot of the past solo episodes that I have done on Successful Podcasting Unlocked and on Listeners to Leads and repurposing them into even more content. So that might look like a Substack newsletter. That might look like a extended LinkedIn posts, right? There's so many different ways that I can take that content that I already have, that I've already created, and make the most of it. Number 4, be open to innovate. These new podcasters are going to have so many tools available to them, AI tools, editing tools. Now would be a really good time to audit your own tools and the software that you're using to ensure that you're actually making the most of 1, the money you're spending, but 2, the time that you're spending doing these things. If the new podcaster coming in can crank out way more content, then they might leave you in the dust, right? So where are some ways that you can optimize your processes, streamline them, use new technologies, innovate, maybe even experiment with different formats? Like there's so many different ways that you can get outside of your current bubble that you have of podcasting and do something different. And number 5, be consistent. Continue to be consistent. That is what is going to set you apart. I promise. People are going to find these new podcasts. There are a lot of these. The majority of them statistically will fall off. And so if you stay true to your mission, you stay true to your content, showing up for your audience when you say that you will, that is going to set you apart. Don't let the idea of an influx of new podcasters stop you from moving forward with your podcast, stop you from continuing to give to your audience. Those are my tips for what established podcasters should be doing as they move through this potentially expanded network of new podcasts coming into the scene. There is hope, I promise. It is going to be okay. This is not something that you have to feel frustrated about or overwhelmed about, because new podcasts are always going to be joining us in this space. There are always going to be new people, but you're not fighting other podcasters for your listens. You're fighting the other things that that person is doing during their day. And so getting their attention and keeping their attention, that is where you can really actually make an impact. You can do something about that. So focusing on the things that I talked about today, that's going to really help you stand out. And a lot of these new podcasters may not have this information. So use this. Please take one item from this. I would say if you have to take one, optimize your past episodes. Go back, review those podcast episodes, make sure that they are fully optimized, and then that way you can really get the most out of your show. If you have any questions, reach out to me. You can go to alicia.galati or successfulpodcastingunlocked.com. Give me any and all of your questions, and I'm always happy to answer them on the show. Until next time, happy podcasting.